Welcome back, everybody, to Epicon 40. We're here with our good friend and perpetual guest, whenever we can get a hold of him, Brenden LaSalle from Goodman Games. And we've got Ed Lehman, founder of Epicon.
Hello.
We've got Katie Zane, director of outreach, and Eric Zane, director of gaming, and a lovely cat.
Well, you can't see the cat. Be thankful you can't see the cat. He's a mess.
So everybody out there in Streamland, please enter your questions into whatever chat you happen to be in, and we'll try to pick them up. But first, I'd like to start off and just ask Brenden, what have you been up to lately? What's happening?
Well, like everybody else, my normal activities have been disrupted by the lockdown. So I'm not on the, used to be I'd be on the road, more than half the year just doing conventions up and down on the East and West Coast and over in the UK. But so I have been doing a lot of online conventions. I also have I have two streaming games that I run. I've been doing a Sunday night game called Blades Against Bandwidth, with a set group that we've been doing, making our way through all of the published Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG adventures. And then I have a Thursday game called 1000 Insane Worlds, where we write an original adventure for that for every session, taking place in a different world. So it's sort of like setting, like cool. Trying to show setting flexibility for Dungeon Crawl Classics, like showing how crazy you can do, what all you can do with the rule set. So, and that has always been a lot of fun. And then of course, just, as much writing, I'm still writing X-Crawl, and we are still working towards doing a Kickstarter for the new edition of X-Crawl, which will use the Dungeon Crawl Classics rules.
Nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and and plus all my regular day-to-day stuff. I take care of my dog. I've pretty much, like I said, I'm like everybody in the quarantine this winter. I need to get I just got my second injection, my second vaccination shot. So now I'm on the cusp.
Me too.
I'm like, here's what I have coming in my future. I've got a haircut coming because you have no idea. And I have I'm going to go back to the gym. I got to do, all of the things are coming up again. All of the things.
Yeah. I've got my, I want to get my haircut too. That's what this crazy ponytail thing is going about.
No, really, you could let it grow long.
No, really, I won't. But thanks.
Yeah, I am actually. I can do a sloppy ponytail right now, not a good one. I can't do a full one yet, so it's pretty crazy.
Can you do Doc Brown from Back to the Future with your hair?
Even Doc Brownier. Yeah, I'm like.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So tell us about this streaming game. I'm interested to hear more about that.
Sure. So the two streaming games. So my Sunday night game is called Blades Against Bandwidth, and that is on the Goodman Games official Twitch channel. And we also those also eventually get put up onto YouTube, so you can watch all of the old episodes on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. I got a set cast. Some of the best gamers in the world are in this game, and we have a set cast of 5, and then we do a rotating guest every week. So we have somebody new who comes to the game every week, and that's been a lot of fun. So we started.
That is very cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. We started with a Dungeon Crawl Classics character funnel, and then we have moved. We sort of went. After 30 adventures, now we got to where everyone was 4th, 5th level. And we're doing all of the published Dungeon Crawl Classics adventures. We're going through them, and then we actually just reset the group with same players but new characters, and now we are going through the Dungeon Crawl Classics, the Lankmar adventures. So through Farford the Grey Mouser world, and that has been super fun. We said our tomorrow is our 5th episode of that, and it's been a riot so far. A lot of fun.
That's a cool world.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the setting. I kind of feel like the classic you know, Lankmar setting in a lot of ways, to me, at least from when I was a kid, that was really, it felt more like Dungeons and Dragons than any other fantasy thing you could actually read. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I'm still, to this day, still a huge fan.
Well, it's very popular. It's a very popular setting. I felt weird and not having read it, which I think I read at least a couple of the books now.
Cool.
As an elderly gamer.
I've never actually read them, but I feel like I have, because one of my old dungeon masters from high school would essentially run the gaming group through adventures in Lankmar instead of, you know, me being a rogue and stuff in the adventure. My mentor and stuff became Han's Shadow Spawn.
Oh,
and
nice.
he would be my contact kind of.
Sure,
and you know, he did that for a number of the characters that were in there and kind of blended us all into the story. So I haven't to this day read them, but I feel like I have.
No, that's super cool. That's fantastic. When I was young, one of my very first real Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, I essentially ran my players through everything I read in Savage Sword of Conan magazine. So like, you know, I think that was like a monthly, and like literally I would get it, read it, you know, make notes, draw a map. And then, I mean, so my character is sort of like, you know, when you're, I think when you're starting off, that's how you do it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You sort of like, you know, draw a lot of inspiration. And I recommend that very much to folks. I hope that you know, people like, you know, we'll definitely mine that for non-published adventures, stuff you're just doing for your friends, mine all of that. You know what I mean? Have a lot of fun with it.
Oh, it's great material to start with, especially as a new DM or GM. Why recreate everything that you're not sure about and just kind of borrow and take what you want from what's out there?
No, sure.
Well, I'm guessing then you can focus on the mechanics more, because you don't have to worry about building the story as you're...
Yeah, you can focus on the mechanics, but you can also, I think it's, it definitely makes it easier, but it also is learning how to world build. I think when you take someone else's fantasy world and go through it, you're also like teaching yourself how to actually, what a well done, especially in the case of Fritz Leiber, what a really well done fantasy world really looks and feels like, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think you leave yourself more time to deal with the mechanics, and to, you know, you have these set things there, and you also can, like I said, you know, learn what does it take to do a good fantasy world? What do you need? What do you know, what's all the things that you can do to, you know, how do you populate something like that? What does it look like? What are the checks and balances, you know?
Are you on this?
Yeah. So what about your Thursday night game? How does that, what's the difference there?
So the difference there is that one, I have a partner on that, and one regular cast member, and then everybody else, they sign up through the Goodman Games website. So you can sign up to play with me any week. And then I randomly choose, like I roll dice to see who I get out of the people who are remainders. And then we try to do a different campaign. Like I write like basically like an instant setting. So every week. So like we've done, here's the short list of what we've done so far. We have done a kind of a Dungeons and Dragons John Wick crossover in this kind of like fantasy criminal style city with guns and all kinds of wacky stuff like that. We did fantasy cavemen fighting against spaceships. We have done kind of a very clear ripoff of Thunder the Barbarian. I was pretty proud of that one.
Nice,
you know,
nice.
Yeah, we kind of touch on one popular one we did Mutant Sprawl High, which was sort of based on, I was a big fan of the old Trauma films when I was a kid, you know. So it's kind of like, imagine a kind of a Gamma World style characters, these mutant kids, except they're all in high school and they're dealing with regular high school stuff, but they also are these mutant power creatures that have to like deal with, you know, threats going on the outside. We had a lot of fun with that one too. So, you know.
That sounds like a blast.
It is. It's we've been doing that one, almost since the beginning of the lockdown. And I think we've done at this point, in a few cases I have done other adventures that I've written before. You know, I kind of, you know, we would need something for a week, but like for the most part, we're doing a new adventure every week, and trying to do it. The point of it is we're trying to enact a new setting every week and really sort of like show off the real big flexibility of the city.
That's awesome.
I have a question.
Great. Go for it.
Brenden, I play in a game every other Wednesday, 5e on Fantasy Grounds Unity. And what the DM does is allow the players to, after a session or two, write a character point of view for bonus experience points, just as an incentive. And then, you know, you give your character's point of view and what happened, and then he does a what really happened kind of thing. That sounds like something that could really work well in what either of your games, of your characters basically telling you what, and the other characters what their character has experienced, and then you come around and say, okay, all of the theatrics of your character aside, this is the core of what really happened. I don't know if that's something you would.
No, I would love that, like a Rashomon style, like where you get everyone's point of view to see what it's. Yeah. One of the things I've really tried to sort of like play around with new mechanics within that. That is not something I have tried, but I love the idea of that. Of like, you know, here you tell me how your character see it, and then I say, well, here's how it actually went. That's wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I play on my background that my character has, and just what happened in the game, and like I've said in previous online things, I share it with a number of the staff members here and a couple other friends who I'm hoping are entertained by my character's activities and antics in my game.
And it's 5e?
It's 5e. We're like 6th or 7th level. 7th, nice. I think. And, you know, it's just, he redid Ghosts of Saltmarsh, the trilogy of the Saltmarsh modules, and he's filling in other stuff, and he's gonna attack us with something else which we're not aware of yet, but he said, okay, good, you're 7th level, now I can do something else. I'm like, fun. Great.
Now something is coming your way to be determined.
Yeah. I love it.
What we don't know from those narratives is what's really happened, though. I mean, I think I can kind of deduce some of what might have really happened.
I'll have to get a copy of he keeps it in a Google spreadsheet. I can pull that up, and then you can see some of the other narratives that go on. I'm the more prolific of the players as far as writing my character's point of view, but the others are entertained by my perspective.
That's awesome.
Ed, you prolific? I can't imagine.
I have a Secret of Saltmarsh story. When I was a very young kid, and my mom, she was so sweet. I talked my mom into actually playing D&D with me. And nice. I ran her and like some NPCs through Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. And at one point in that adventure, you know, she's a grown-up and looks at it from a different point of view. So at one point in that adventure, there's a giant spider that shows up in there. And she cast Enlarge on her spell book and just crushed it. Like oh, giant spider, better get a giant book. Here you go. There's for you.
That's great.
I always love that.
So you said you're playing with some, you know, just great gamers. What is a great gamer to you? Like, what makes the difference?
Well, you know, okay, there's a couple of different aspects. I feel like a great gamer has to walk the line because obviously you want to do well in the game. So you want to be strategic. You know what I mean? You want to try to like figure out the puzzles, fight to the best of your ability, do everything you can do to you know, like to win. But like someone that does that all the time and that's just all they do is that's actually a boring game. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you're going to just play adversarial like that, it's almost like playing chess. The other side of that spectrum is somebody who role plays all the time and who isn't concerned with, you know, how well you do or are we winning. They're just having fun playing out the characters and the quirks and the nuances of their character and such, you know. So when you can find someone who can like walk that line, who can be really strategic, but also be like a good role player, I think that's, you know, and be inventive and like come up with clever solutions to things. That's really like a good role player. That's really a good gamer right there. You know what I'm saying? I think you have to have some role play ability, some strategy, and you know, some of that like, you know, that fortitude for going forward and attacking stuff that like, you know, I don't know, that the best players demonstrate. So.
Right. Not just always trying to avoid everything.
Not just always dealing with the, role-playing game should be its own animal. It shouldn't be a board game where it's just like room, fight, treasure, room, fight, treasure. But it also shouldn't be an improv session where we all just wander around with these crazy characters like, be wild or whatever. That was actually me. That's my character right now on another game. No, I'm kidding. But like you want kind of you want part of that though. You want someone who can be that strategic guy and who can do well and find creative solutions to fighting things. But then on the other hand, you want someone who's also does a little role playing. Doesn't always do the most efficient thing, especially when that goes against their character's nature. That sometimes they're just like, I don't want to fight that guy because, everyone knows I love dogs. And you're like, it's a dog-headed demon. I don't care, or whatever it happens to be. I'm not hitting it, so.
Somebody else will have to do that, right?
Yeah. I think someone who walks that line is, that's a precious player right there, so.
I think that's what makes it fun. I mean, as a fellow player, that also makes it fun, right? When you have a good blend, you're figuring out the puzzles, or you're finding the right strategy to accomplish the goal, but we're not just sitting here talking about points and whatever, my magic, and let's calculate probability for, not that that's bad, right, Katie?
No, I know what you mean. You want some of that, but you don't want that to be the whole game. You know what I'm saying? Like walking that line, the more I do it, the more I appreciate somebody who is a good enough role player and a good enough, strategy guy, you know what I'm saying? And, clever enough to be that that fun middle ground character.
That reminds me of a story that Trish and Eric will remember from book 1 of Skull and Shackles. We had a player, our friend Vinny, who looked at us and goes, I'm going to do something because it's what my character would do, but I realized that it's a very stupid role-playing decision. And he got himself in a lot of trouble with the captain of the ship we were on, but he was like, my character would not just sit by and watch this happen. He would absolutely intervene. So that's what I'm going to do, even though I know it's 3 on 20. It doesn't matter. I have to do this.
That's awesome.
Okay.
It got him a day. Got him a day in the box, which should have probably killed a first or second level character, but he survived it.
Yeah, I think that characters who make trouble for themselves like that are, those are all blessed people to play with. The people who are going to be like, I know that doing this is the right thing to do for my character, but it's going to make things harder. And that's, give me that all day.
Right. I know, that's a pleasure. That was a shining moment, even though it was like, oh man, this is going to drag out even longer than it already was dragging out.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm kind of fascinated with now is like my daughter Catherine, right? She was born practically at Epicon, not quite the month after, but she loves to watch live streams of people playing D&D or role-playing games, and we're sitting here watching one show that she likes, and she'll say, well, I don't know if you know what that does, Mom, because I don't know that you've played a D&D 5e, and I'm just sitting here like,
Yeah.
But
classic.
But what's fascinating to me is people who maybe couldn't be at a con or didn't know anybody else who would role play now have the ability to kind of see what it can be like.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I'm excited to see, like, do you find on like your Thursday night where you have different people all the time, do you see people catching on from what other people have done in the past, or like they've watched it before and they're kind of
probably some. I'm almost sure a lot of that is happening, but that I'm not picking up on it because I'm not seeing where that's coming from. But I think you're 100% right. I think that there are a lot of people in the younger generation who, if you think about how you literally had to be introduced to role playing, you might find a book in a thing. You know what I mean? I know a few people who found a role-playing game book and then played wrong for a while, or didn't have anyone to play with, but would just read the heck out of it and just like were, you know, like all over the rules, but never didn't see how it actually went. You know what I mean?
Didn't we all?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a lot of people did, but we hadn't have a choice back then. Either
Right.
you played, eventually you got with some folks and you said, oh, okay, I see. It's make pretend, there's dice, there's character sheets, and you actually see it all kind of come together in front of you, you know. And then, but now if you watch like this next generation coming up, a lot of them came to role-playing games through you know, through Critical Role or through any one of the other online streaming games, and they, you know, they got to see that first and like, oh, I get it. You know, think about like, I think about how many people completely misunderstand what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like tabletop gamers. You know, I have one relative who, whenever he introduces me, he's like, and this is my cousin Brenden, and he writes choose your own adventure books.
Yeah. No.
No, that's not what I do. But I've stopped fighting him on it. I just can't like, yeah, that's me. I'm the choose your own adventure guy. Which, you know, but and then I had to be like, when they're like, well, that's interesting. How'd you get into that? And I'd be like, that's not really what I do. You know,
Just to be clear.
you know what I mean? But or they think I write video games and, you know, or whatever it is. But like now, you know, the next generation is going to have a level of cultural literacy about role-playing games that we never had.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Large.
like, because no, none. You know, even reading like I read Dragon magazine. I felt like I was pretty in touch. I was not. You know, but now I very much feel that way. And like we have the ability to like, you know, take a game that is challenging to you. Like I went and watched some folks playing Eclipse Phase, which is this very complicated sci-fi game to kind of get an idea.
Eclipse.
Isn't me? Yeah, I have now too. I want to run it someday. Isn't it incredible? What a setting! What an absolutely brilliant setting. But like you know, in the old days, it'd be like buy the book, invite some friends over, be like, all right, let's make up guys. All right, and then you figure it out. You're like, all right, let's have a fight, I guess, and see if we can. You know, you're you know, but like now you can actually like. Oh, you can get the rhythm of how it should go. Oh, there's initiative, and then it's this. We go around, and this one is, or at least the flavor, and that can be kind of hard, an undefinable thing. And people all will come up with their own flavor eventually. But to get an idea of to get a starting point, I think that the live streaming games is fantastic and a really good way to start off.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it gives a broader level of experience, and like you said. You can watch people playing Pathfinder or Dungeon or D&D or something else and kind of maybe get a flavor of different what you like and what you don't like in a way that was a little more difficult, you know, when we were younger. Yeah. Because you had to know somebody that had that other book that was running whatever. I mean, I think I started gaming in college. And we had a little cluster of GMs who like to run different games. So I was actually fortunate in getting exposed to different things.
Twilight, Champions, Dungeons and Dragons. I think those were the three big ones for us in college.
Yeah. No,
well, my first role-playing game was Twilight 2000, which was quite a bizarre thing for an 18-year-old girl or whatever I was to start playing.
Yeah, that's an amazing starting point, though. I'll tell you what, though, I will say there is a downside, I think, to learning how to play from watching the streams. Okay, which is that at least the really most popular streams, Critical Role. I mean, you're looking at professionals, voice actors, comedians, and all of that. And I hope that people watching don't feel like they have to be that good starting off, you know what I'm saying, as a dungeon master or as a player. And I don't want people to be like, well, I couldn't play a role-playing game because I can't do voices, or I don't think like that or whatever. I hope I want to make sure that it never becomes a barrier where people are watching and like, I'm not that good, I couldn't do it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like this is our little tiny weird art form, and I hope there's always space for everybody at the table. And I don't want anybody to ever go, well, I'm you know, or the flip side of that, like, you know, you go to a game, you go to a new convention, you go to Epicon for the first time, and you walk away from the table going, well, I had fun, but yeah, he was no Matt Mercer or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not fair either. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. No, I think some of the most fun you have at the table overall, like over a long time, not necessarily that my favorite game that I remember that, you know, sticks out of my head, but is the learning process, right? How we'll sit, and now we're sitting all in our different houses looking at different Zooms or whatever, but, you know, and say, oh yeah, remember that time? This reminds me of that time. And you know, maybe we want to rethink this strategy before we go forward.
Well, and
that's awesome.
That's something that I give. The Glass Cannon podcast is one that Eric and I have been listening to and watching on Twitch a lot. And one of the things I love that they do is they do a behind the scenes called Cannon Fodder. And basically they do, you know, it started out as this is how we do what we do. This is how you GM. This is how you can, you know, make your home games better. And they take questions and, but they really emphasize that idea of you're here to have fun. And if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. But as long as you're having fun, then it doesn't matter. And, you know, they botch rules sometimes and they'll acknowledge it. Sometimes they'll come back and they'll retcon something if it was really egregious, or they'll just say, hey, we messed this up, but we're gonna, you know, we'll fix it going forward, but we're not going back. But I think that, you know, even though they are mostly actors and comedians and so on, they do a really good job of being real and letting people know, like, hey, anybody can do this. And that's one of the great things is we get these podcasts and Twitch streams and it creates communities. And so I can't tell you how many people I've seen on Discord who are playing role-playing games for the first time because they go, well, I live in this tiny little town and, you know, in Europe, and nobody else plays role-playing games. I could never play. Yeah. And now they have this online community that they can actually play. And that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I think if you don't look at the good things that happened over the last 14 months, you'll just go mad. And you have to say that, okay, with all the terrible nonsense, all of the tragedy, and all of the, you know, the pain of the last, since all of this got started, I think you have to also go, some good things came out of this. And one of them is, I think that role-playing games are in a new golden age right now. And I think it is both the people who are doing online streams and approaching it from that, but also people who are getting together and playing, you know, like I said, playing for the first time over, like, on the internet, and getting together in these groups that would never have happened. I mean, not even when I was a kid, you played with people in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Yep. I had a friend who we used to game with who like lived 45 minutes away, and that was an exotic. Like, I had to get mom to drive me to East Meadow, you know, and that was something. And then, you know, the next, although I will say I was a very early adopter of remote gaming, as me and my friends. Now, I grew up in New York. We had we played on CB radio for a while. We played across Long Island. So,
wow.
I know, right? It was ridiculous, and it'd be hilarious because it would be me and my friend Phil at his CB, and then our other far-flung friends. I think we had like 2 remote people who would play, and then it'd be like, you know, we'd be playing our regular game, and then every once in a while you would get like bikers just telling you, or like by truckers, like, "Hey, shut up, get off this channel." So, you know, it was a little different. It'd be like, you know, but you know, you go from those early days to then conventions. We started doing that, and then conventions. Hey, you meet people from all over. You know what I'm saying? You might play with a guy from, you know, from Syosset or from wherever, California. And now on the regular with the online conventions, like I said, one of my earlier, my morning game today here at Epicon, I had a player from Belgium.
Wow, that's
great.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and he did a good job. It was fun. We had a good time playing, and I think that there's a real alchemy that we're going to see going forward, where you're going to have these groups that are going to get together and friendships that are going to get forged, you know, real friendships that will come from this. That will be people who otherwise never would have gotten together, and game combinations you'll see getting together that you never could have gotten together before, even 10 years ago when the technology was terrible, you know. In the early days of Skype, for a while there, I was playing, me and my buddy were playing with our friend who was in Japan. He was in Japan for a year in the military. And like, we had this game where it would be like 7:30 at night for us and like 6:30 in the morning for him. I want to say it was something like that. You know, so like,
that's
be
dedication.
I know, right? Well, he was stationed in the embassy over there, and apparently he was the only English speaker, so he was just desperate for any kind of fun. So, you know, we did that for a while, but it was terrible. The technology was so bad. You spent half the time messing with the technology, and now it's, you know, we're in a golden age of that as well. So, you know, I think it is with all the bad things. I think some amazing innovations have come across, and some really cool friendships have gotten made. So, you know,
and that was kind of like when Epicon started. That was kind of the whole point, was to get together, have fun. And just the amount of people that I know I've met and still have friendships with, and Katie, Trisha, Eric. I met Eric because at Epicon 1, he was there as an SJ Games representative.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
he's always been there, and he's always, you know, just done phenomenal things for and in association with the convention.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and we have Eric to thank for the Discord, the tabletop events, you know, things that I and Katie and whatever, and a horde of people used to do with spreadsheets, emails, probably duct tape and rubber bands, is now done with tabletop events and Discord.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I think it's a new golden age of all of the misery of the last year or so. I think we have an amazing time of for gaming in general, for role-playing games in particular, just because we have this technology, and then we have this great necessity of still playing. You know what I mean? Like, you imagine if this had taken place in the 70s. You know, you would have had, oh my God.
That would be okay. Go ahead. I wasn't born then.
Yeah, well, you know.
For the rest of us.
Yeah, here's what I got to say to that. No internet and 3 TV channels. So have fun with that action. You know? I guess we would have read a lot of books and played a lot of crossword puzzles. So.
Yeah, right. But even
and Monopoly.
I think about this, like, Brenden, since you moved south, we haven't seen you. And so when we were like, hey, we got to go virtual, one of the first things we said as a staff was, let's get Brenden. We can get him virtually. You know, we were really excited about it.
Yeah, I am super excited. I'm super glad I got to do this. I really miss all y'all. I was trying to think, like, I remember my first Epicon very, very well, because you were in not the Hilton, but the hotel before that. My first
Clark Summit.
Yep, the Clark Summit. And but here's what I don't remember. I remember that, like, you know, I don't know how Epicon got to be on my or our radar. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember. I actually, for this Q&A, I tried to like look through my old emails and see if I could like trace it down to like when, but it's so long ago now. Was it you? Was it thee?
Well, I met Joe Goodman at Gen Con in like 03 or 04 or something like that. Early days of Goodman Games.
Sure.
And I want to say that I kept in loose contact through, you know, prize support and this and that. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he had contacted me and said, hey, there's this guy who developed, you know, X-Crawl. I think you had X-Crawl at that time, and you're a nearby convention. Would you be willing to host him? And then I think it was him who got the two of us talking and got you out to Epicon for that first convention.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. Yeah, that sounds very plausible. Like I said, it was either you reaching out to him reaching out to you, or I just showed up one day. Like, I woke up and I was in the hall. You know?
I gotta go there.
Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. I need to go.
Yeah, I woke up with like a hankering there. You know, so I respawn. Oh. But I'll tell you what, that one, I don't, like I said, I only did one convention there, but like I started to feel like Scranton was like my little home away from home. And I still consider Epicon my local con. And
nice.
You know, some of my fellow game designers, Michael Curtis, who designed Shutter Mountains and a bunch of other stuff, Michael Curtis, his joke is always, because you guys would be on twice a year, and I would always go. For the early years, I never missed a Epicon if I could avoid it. A couple of times something else came up that weekend, I couldn't go, but I tried to hit every one. But he used to say that I was always, since it was twice a year, spring and fall, I was always either on my way to just back from Epicon at some point. It was like I was always at some part of the Epicon cycle whenever he talked to me.
Coming or going.
Yep. So yeah, it was some times. But I mean, this is great. And I miss us all getting together, and I miss seeing everybody and the Baticinos and all my friends and everything, and going down to that little restaurant with the tiny little hamburgers, but I was a fan. I like that place. But you know what though? This is great. It's great to be able to share all this. And for role-playing games, it's great to be able to game like this. It's great to be able to have the virtual table that we have with people from all over the place. I love it. And as much as I miss being on the road, I never want to not have an online component to my gaming life ever again. You know what I mean? I'll never go back to just tabletop, I don't think.
Oh, it's definitely added to the experience of gaming, and will always be part of it. Even when we have that wonderfully blowout weekend of getting back to live cons, there will still be, the online aspect, and even at the live cons, doing a panel with people virtually at the live con is very feasible and doable, and people will want to do it.
And we've had a lot of people who have said, we've done our single day virtual conventions, and they're very low maintenance overall. I mean, Eric does a lot of the background for it, but I see how much work he puts into it, and it's not overwhelming. It's a reasonable amount of work to do for a one day. And we've had a lot of people who've requested that they've said, even when we go back, we still want to do some virtual stuff. And we said, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be able to incorporate. That's certainly something within the realm of possibility when we go back in person. But when you see Gen Con, that's what they're doing. They're doing a mix. So that may be something, lessons learned when we get through Gen Con. But yeah, so I think now going forward, we will always see some online component, whether it's online game days or a mix on convention weekends. But I think the online stuff isn't going to go away, because exactly that, we have access to people and events and players that we just never would have had otherwise.
No, you're right. And it's so much fun. I'm still, I'm still having a really, really good time with it, so, and it's funny, in the beginning, I always felt like, it always felt like second choice, but like, I don't know. I see the advantages, even just in the actual mix of the game. Like, I like being able to right click on your dots there and send you a secret message. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a secret message that the person sitting next to you isn't looking over your shoulder and seeing.
Yeah. Think of the old days. You would like write something on a piece of paper and slide it across, and everyone's like, "Oh crap, Ed's up to something again."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, But now, if you're
I'm going to put a number on this piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you could be like, you can have whole dialogues going on. You know what I'm saying? And admittedly, sometimes it's like I've been in public games before at conventions and gotten secret messages like, "Oh my God, that guy's a dink. I wish he'd shut up." And I got to be like, "Come on now, we're playing a game." But like, but for the most part, for the most part though, it's all groovy and good. And it's like, it's just it's and like being able to electronically send out character sheets is very cool. And like, being able to have like my like, very often if I'm running a published adventure, I'll get the PDF of that. I can have the PDF right in front of me, so I can actually be like, I can move my window over, and I'm still talking to the camera, but I'm reading I'm reading my PDF adventure and such. That's there's a lot of really slick things you can do because of it. And that's not even getting into the virtual tabletop stuff, which is amazing.
And the secret message thing also, from my perspective, adds a whole new dimension to characters who speak different languages in the game, because you can just send, these 2 characters out of the 8 speak Celestial. Zoom.
Yeah. That's pretty. Yeah, perfectly done. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I keep. That's a really good one. And puzzles like.
Yeah.
Like being able to pop a visual up there that you could then like draw, like whiteboard to and change things around. That is super cool. So there are a ton of advantages. Not to say the least of, as much as I love the old Hilton. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's nice to be able to sleep in my own bed, eat my own food. And like I was actually just telling this morning, when you're on the road, you can always get coffee, and you can very often get good coffee, but it's really hard to get good hot tea. And I make good hot tea at the house because I buy good hot tea, but I'm like, now I can like drink hot tea all day long like I like to. So you're eating your own food.
Brenden, I promise you the best hot tea the whole con the next time we get you to Epicon, because our new place has kitchens.
Yeah.
So I can brew you tea anytime you want if you make it up to Epicon, I promise.
All right. I can't tell you how much I would love to do that, And I'll tell you what, one of the great things I think about Epicon always had that office with the snacks. Y'all are not kidding around when it comes to money. I would go in there and be like, da 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 da, and sometimes you even have like stew or pasta. It was always good. And but like I always think about going in there and like someone would make those little like cake thingies. Oh, and the Cupcake Ladies. Oh, I'm not getting my to pray peanut butter.
I know.
I love the vanilla.
Yeah, and you're outside the radius. I'm on the bleeding edge. I actually had her send Catherine cupcakes for her birthday, but it's a production. I mean, it's like ice packs and bubble wrap, and
that reminds me, I didn't order any this convention. I ordered them last convention.
Dun, 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 dun. When y'all talk at them though, give them my best, because I miss. Oh boy, I used to see them there, and I would see them at Total Con, and man, the Klingon bird of prey peanut butter.
I would just hand them a 20 and make drive-bys and take 2 at a time, and they'd be like, Ed, here you go. And they always knew what I wanted. It was always the vanilla ones with the Hogwarts schools.
Vanilla.
Oh, it is
the
awesome.
Best vanilla I've ever had. Like you go, oh, I'm gonna pay all this money for a handmade vanilla cupcake. Why would I do that? But they're the best vanilla.
But it's so good.
Obviously, you haven't tasted it if you're questioning this, right?
Well, what is it? There's like 2 different types of vanilla that she uses.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the color inside.
Yeah, but she uses a different vanilla for the icing than she uses for the cupcakes, at least. Yeah. So it's.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I got to admit, when I first started going to the Cupcake Lady, I tried a couple, and then I found the peanut butter one with it's the Klingon bird of prey one with the fondant, and I was home, and that was what I ate from then on. So oh boy, I miss those. So, and as much as I miss the live convention experience, I love being able to do this, and I couldn't have gone this year probably. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it wasn't for the online thing. So I hope you guys, I add my voice to the chorus of people who hope that you will continue to have an online component to your live conventions. And I'd love to come back at some point and do a live Q&A by a video. I'll be the big head on the screen. What do you want?
Nice.
Yeah, I think it brings that whole different dimension that we couldn't do as a small convention, right? Yeah. To bring somebody in for, hey, we want you to be on a panel for an hour, but you have to travel to Pennsylvania to do it. It's like,
I do have to say the guest from furthest away that I remember at a Epicon was the guy who was visiting New York City from Russia, heard about the convention, and the guy he was visiting brought him, and it was at Clark's Summit. He came in, and I think it was Steve Edelman said, hey, this guy is from Russia. I think we gave him like 3 or 4 complimentary shirts to take back with him.
That is so cool.
And, it was just so cool.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a one and done kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wore one of my favorite Epicon shirts these days. My very favorite one is my yellow Epicon shirt that I got at the first show that I wear that to conventions all the time, but it looks weird on camera, so I don't wear it for the Zoom games. like with my background, I kind of fade in and out, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah.
So I don't wear my yellow one for shows. I wear this one, and I wear the yin yang one that I'm from your last year that I'm a huge fan of. But
I like designing that.
I have a ton, like, you know, if there's ever, like I said, I have, because I would go and buy, you know, y'all would have like, oh, old ones from past years. I'd be like, yep. And like, not only do I have them, but my nieces grew up in those. Every year I would buy them. Every Christmas, on top of everything else, they would get, you know, the closest to their sizes I could find in Epicon shirts. So like, I have my two nieces who have probably never been, you know, farther north than, you know, South Carolina, but they, you know, they wear a lot of Mepa gear. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All my kids' stuff have gone off to other younger friends and relatives.
Yeah, they get handed down a lot. So yeah, what I was thinking about earlier when I thought about a person who came the furthest away was when Donna came from Egypt.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say that.
But
yep.
But that wasn't on a whim. She was from Pennsylvania originally.
Yeah, she was dedicated.
From Egypt.
Yeah. Still though.
But yeah, that was pretty amazing. She brought a whole bunch of stuff with her, remember?
Oh my God, that giant scroll art, whatever that had that bidding war.
Yeah.
Holy monkey.
Yeah, it was in the auction and went.
Yeah.
I don't even remember, but it was a
260 something.
Wow, that's wild.
It was cool. Really cool.
Nice.
So we did get a question in the chat. So Lauren wants to know, do you think the monsters I made for my friend are good? A huge dire rabbit with static cling that can rip a metallic weapon into its fur, and the spider, that's one. And the spider dragon that can spit poison and webs and can fly.
Yes, Lauren, those are both good. Staticling Rabbit is hilarious, and I love him snatching up weapons from people and such. And yeah, spider, poison, spitting dragon. I mean, you don't have to ask me that. That's awesome. I don't care who you are. That's, you know. Yeah, so one of my favorite things about Dungeon Crawl Classics, the system that I mostly work in these days, is that it's like, it's got some basic monsters that come with the game, but for the most part, you are encouraged to make up your own monsters. So I love seeing folks cool new monsters and all of the things that they add in there, and you know, all of the weirdness. And I love that we're getting away from, there was think about how many years, if you were playing fantasy stuff, you were pretty much fighting bugbears and giants and owlbears in different combinations with different things. But like, I love that, you know, I don't know, I'm seeing a lot more people making their own wild, insane, chimerac everything. So, you know, give me more of that. So yes, Staticling bunny. Yes. You know, P.S. Your Staticling bunny should have a shock attack. It should be able to come across the carpet at you and, you know, like give you a little of that action. So, you know,
maybe it can also reverse that field and shoot back the weapons that it.
Oh yeah, no. It like gets up and like digs its back legs for a minute, builds a charge. That's Satan just flies up there, hits you in the chest. Yeah, hell yeah.
And it has kind of thieving abilities where it bats all those little things away.
Yeah.
Your items.
Yeah, he's blocking it all on the way in. Yeah, so well done, Lauren. Well done.
Yeah, I do think that's great, that because I can remember a time where all the creatures were coming out of the monster manual, and if you had been bored enough to read the whole monster manual, you know, it'd be like, oh wait, I know what that is, and it has these abilities.
Yeah, and you would meet like, you know, like I'm trying to think of the one, like I used to have I actually spent, this is so terrible, when I was a little kid, I spent some time and memorized what different things worked against ooze creatures, because they were all different. So it'd be like brown mold, gotta use cold. You know what I mean? I have like mnemonics for, across stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so glad we're out of those days, because that was it's hard. I mean, when you're 12, it's hard not to be like, well, my character doesn't know that I shouldn't use fire against this thing, and I'm going to go for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah,
it's hard, but like now we don't know what this thing can do. Let's try this, So I love that. And that's how it should be. Monsters should always be strange. They should always be weird. They should always break the rules. They shouldn't be, I loved Pathfinder in my day, but like, pretty soon you got to where, you could predict it. So you could be like, okay, well, this thing is an aberration, or, I think they're called abomination or whatever it was, or aberration, I guess it was.
Aberration.
And aberration. And you know that an aberration, it levels up like a cleric. So you could kind of like, if you were in a fight, you could kind of get an idea of its hit dice. You could also figure out about what its saving throw was versus a thing. And you could totally use that to help you strategize what you were going to do next. And I mean, that's the kind of gameplay. I get it, but it's also, it sucks the mystery out and makes it more of a, chess battle. And that's not, that's not when I think role-playing games, obviously I'm never going to tell anybody to not have the kind of fun they're having at role-playing games. Some people love that, and more power to them. But for me, I love a little surprise and stuff. I love it where sometimes you just got to try something crazy,
The hardest thing in first and second, as far as those creatures that everybody just knew, was throwing a rust monster against a party, because they were so distinctive looking that I stopped using that picture of them. By second edition, I just changed the bodily structure of the rust monster so I could actually use a rust monster in an event against the party. Those and cockatrice. You're attacked by a chicken. Okay, I'm going to be petrified. Yeah. Those two creatures I had to change because everybody knew what a cockatrice was. Everybody knew what a rust monster was.
Yeah, and it stops being scary, and it starts being a workaday obstacle, like something you have a procedure to get around. Okay, when that shows up, it would be like you would send in the monk. You know what I'm saying? Karate and leather armor. I saw more monk attacks against rust monsters. So.
And the first time I let a dragon breathe more than 3 times in first and second edition, my players almost went into a coronary attack and started going on to rules lawyering, and I'm like, listen. No.
Yeah, I hear you. That'll drive you nuts. That'll absolutely drive you nuts.
I just started using a D4, and every D4 rounds, it's breath weapon recharged. Once they figured that out, they were a little more careful about those first and second edition dragons.
That's definitely, as a GM, I am probably the least experienced at role playing at the table, or one of, and they'll figure everything out before I've even said anything, and I'm like, so now I'm learning to vary things. And there are a lot of times, I will say, and it's a Paizo adventure path, they have stuff that it's like, this is whatever monster, but it's not the same one that's in the book. There's something different about it, or there's something extra makes it interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like they have to keep up now, because everyone, you know what I'm saying, are coming up with the weirder and weirder and weirder, so I'm happy to be at the forefront of that. I was always, in the old X-Crawl days, I was really big on making up monsters, and I'm even more so now. You know what I mean? Like like every once in a while I think, oh, I should use a monster out of the book. That'll be fun. Like that'll be like that's like the
throw them off.
The anomaly. And they're like, whoa, what's he doing here? You know what I'm saying? So
he's doing something sneaky.
It's interesting too to see now what they've done with Pathfinder in the second edition. They've actually changed monster design so that it doesn't track the same way that characters do. So you can create an NPC that the characters might look at that and they think that, oh, this NPC is a fighter, but it's not built like a fighter. It's built completely differently under a whole different system than they ever used to have. So it just doesn't work the same way.
That's cool, and it should be that way. You know what I'm saying? That I think that is fantastic, and I want to see more of that. You know what I'm saying? I want to see, in gaming and in my life, it's still, it hasn't gotten weird enough. You know what I mean? Like, I want, that next, I see crazy, and then I want more crazy. You know what I'm saying? I have an endless appetite for the weird and unusual and crazy combinations and everything. So,
Well, it keeps your imagination flowing, right? I mean,
yeah.
And we don't want our role-playing experiences to be like, I go to work, I have to get a cup of coffee, I have to commute, I have to do this X, Y, and Z. You want it to be, wait, what's happening?
Yeah, the whole point is to forget about real life for a little while.
Isn't that
we're not playing accountants and law firms, right?
I know, right?
Houses and humans. I have that piece of art. I love that piece of art. All dragons playing D&D, or well, houses and humans.
Yeah, I appreciate it as a joke, but
right.
I'm gonna skip that night. Anything that will let me not play bureaucracy out. You know what I'm saying, or that. One of the big inspirations to X-Crawl was that my personal gaming bugbear. I hate educating shopping trips. I hate like we're going to go into the store. I'm like, all right, well, I asked the blacksmith, and then like you got to get in character. Well, no, and now I'm like, I'm pretending to work retail. Why am I pretending to work retail? And X-Crawl really eliminated all of that. Like that was just one of the many things that I sort of like used to sort of like fit the game into my precise play style, and that was one of them because I was just going nuts. I just couldn't.
That's one thing I want to play at a convention is in one of your X-Crawls just once.
I'd love that. Well, I've got a bunch of online cons coming up, and in the next couple of months, I will be doing Dungeon Con online. I will be doing the Empire of Cyclops Con, and I will be doing next weekend. I'll be running X-Crawl at ReaperCon. I got a bunch of online cons coming up. So I hope I get a chance to play with you and you and you and you watching at home. Sign up and play a game with me. I want to meet you.
Sounds awesome. We'll have some links later on that you can track Brenden down.
Absolutely. And if you need, I'll send you all the list. But
that's awesome. All right. Any parting thoughts?
Yes.
Elsewise, other than we all want to play with Brenden online.
Just that I want to say thank you so much for if you tuned in and hung out with us, and if you have participated in Epicon, which is a show which is dear and near to my heart. Thank you all so much for supporting, for being a part of our wonderful hobby, and for helping these fine folks do all the amazing things that these fine folks do. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure, Brenden.
Thank you.
Great gaming, everyone.
I think the first place I'm going after this is to the Cupcake website or link and order some cupcakes.
And then everybody come back and join us again at 9 for Staff Among Us, followed by Staff Jackbox. Should be an entertaining night.
Don't miss it.
All right, bye everybody.